Hey, everybody. Welcome to the B Channel podcast, where my objective is to bless, edify, and encourage others to live their best lives. And today I have a special guest with me, Miss Stella. And we're talking about personal development, among other things. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here. As Amber has said, my name is Stella Chibuike-Ezike. I'm from Nigeria.
Hey!
I'm a learning and development enthusiast, an educator, a writer, and author. I'm very passionate about intentional living, personal development, conscious parenting. I love, for people to be able to live their best lives, right? Be able to express themselves and live life, live a life that is filled with purpose and filled with passion. And of course, doing that also means that for those who are parents and for those who are caregivers, also for those who nurture children, right? I believe that you can't expect a child to thrive if you yourself are not thriving. So yeah, that's all I'm about. Thank you.
Yes, and that's amazing. So I have
Yeah.
to ask you, what made you become so passionate about personal development?
Okay, so I would say growing up, it was something that was kind of instilled in me. My dad was blessed, God bless his soul. He passed last year, March, right? He was quite intentional in bringing us up. Um, Even though, of course, he was from the silent generation, I think generation before the baby boomers. So they were quite traditionalists. Um, and for him, even as old as they were, at the time, he was always very passionate about doing your best in everything that you do. Right? He would tell us stories. He would read books to us. In fact, we always had books in the house. So we had an amazing childhood. So I took that up from him. So I think it was, let's say, my DNA, right? So even in the growing up, I always strive to be the best, to have good grades. In the office, when I started working, I just not I had that natural, like, people, even my peers would come to me to ask for advice, ask for, oh, some sort of stuff is going on, even beyond the office. Some sort of stuff is going on in the house. How can I navigate this? So people always saw me as someone they could approach, or someone they could reach out to, right? And I always had that knack of making sure that people are, like, in the place of work, people are beyond your job function, right? What are you doing to be better? What are you doing to help yourself, beyond where you are? So my dad was a very major factor in building and shaping who I am today. And then, of course, when and on the other track, when I became a parent, of course, what I knew going into, I knew definitely that I also wanted my children to be the best, that they could be. But I didn't have enough knowledge. Now I realize I didn't have enough knowledge because when I got into it and I realized that, look, the way we were parented, it's obviously not going to work, in this day and age. I mean, there's so many things, that are so much different. Technology for one, right? There's so much that is so much different from what it is that we knew at the time. And so I started to seek knowledge. And then the more I sought knowledge, the more I realized that, look, to be able to be able to nurture children who thrive, it starts with you, really. Like, you have to be the one who is thriving. Why? Because apart from the fact that you can't pour from an empty cup, children learn best by modeling. So you are, whatever you are, is what they behold, right? So you can't tell your child to go and read a book. How many books have you read?
Right.
Right? I mean, oh, don't do this, don't do that. What about you? How disciplined are you? Right? So it starts from you. And that was what made me, being a parent made me, I started learning and started, what, beyond knowing some of these things, I now need to start living it out fully for my children, right? And then when my dad passed, like, it was that also made me, I'm sure we'll get into that, how my writing and all of that took shape. But in a nutshell, I'd say, yeah, first of all, it's something that I kind of grew into, but then as life went on, I realized the need to make it more formal and make it be tangible enough, first for my children to see, and then of course for the people around me, and of course for my legacy.
Yes, and I love what you said about legacy because I was just thinking it in my head. Legacy. Your dad left a beautiful legacy for you to carry on. And like you said, modeling. He modeled that. So now he passed the baton to you. So now it's time for you to model for your children. So I like that. That's a very good reason, to want to do it. Generational, keep it going.
Keep it
And
going, keep it going.
yes,
And evolve and adapt, because I mean there's so much that we parents we need to know now beyond what we knew when we were being parented.
yes. So what is the greatest lesson that you have learned about personal development?
I mean, there are a lot. What would I say is my greatest lesson? I think for me is to there are a lot. But I think one thing I would say would be, which one could I pick now? One thing I would say would be to I think uh
Take your time.
yeah, because my greatest lesson, I think that for me, learning is I mean, as long as you are alive, you have to keep an open mind to learning. Learning is all around us. I mean, I tell people that even when I'm studying with my not study, when I'm helping my kids study, I learn a lot, right? Especially when they're doing their history lessons or geography. Like there's so many things. If I'm like, oh, I didn't even know this, right? So you want to grow, you want to develop yourself. You cannot shut your mind to learn. You can't shut your mind to the world. You have to live life as every day you're learning something new. So there's something that I call the beginner's mindset, right? I think
Hmm.
one of my articles on Substack, when I talk about the 7 lessons that I learned as a creator, something like that, the beginner's mindset. There's so much that you think but you realize that, oh, okay, or even if what you knew, but then of course the world is evolving. There's so much. So when you maintain a beginner's mindset, you are humble enough to keep learning, keep searching for knowledge. Even when you think you know it, you know what more can I find? So I think the greatest lesson for me would be continuously being open to learning until the day you die. Because I mean, you cannot I was when dad passed, part of what made me even get into writing, I went home because I don't stay in I stay in a different city, from him. So when he passed, I had to travel, and then I was going through his things. He had about 4 or 5 books that he had
Hmm.
written. He had a lot of poems, collection of poems that he wrote himself, short stories, you know. And I was just looking, and I'm like, these things didn't go beyond his community, his family, maybe the workplace. But look at me today. I mean, I don't I don't have millions of subscribers on Substack here, but I mean, one story goes touches the world, and I'm like, if he had these tools, if he could have leveraged some of these tools, some of his books, like, these are things that I had to read those things, and I'm like, wow, I didn't even know all of this, right? Imagine if he had, and these are things that would have blessed a lot of people. Imagine if, maybe he had published them on Amazon or something like that, right? He would have
Hmm.
reached so much more. So at that age, we have I don't know if you know Zolt on Substack. He's 80 and he's on Substack, right? So
Really?
yeah, he's 80. Zolt. I don't
Wow.
know. Yeah, he's on Substack, and she just started his newsletter sometime last year too. Imagine
Hmm.
if he taught himself to, oh, you know what, I'm old, and I can't do this technology thing that you guys are doing. I mean, there is no greater. I don't think there's any greater fulfillment in life than being able to, to carve out a purpose for yourself. And the only way you can actually carve out that purpose and stay true to that purpose is by continuously updating yourself and learning, right? Learning is all
Yes.
about us, right? So
Yes, you have to be a student. I think that's really important. And I think it
right,
keeps you young when you learn stuff all the time because it's just good for your mind. Like you said, you're updating, just like a cell phone needs to get updated or a computer needs to get updated. Sometimes we need to get updated, you know?
exactly. You put it
Yes,
so well. like,
yeah,
like like the software needs to get updated. Oh, we need to. We really need to. We really need to. You know,
yes. So
I was
that's part of
to
what made you write about it. Start writing about personal development is your dad and the things that you saw that he had written.
yeah. So when I went through his things, okay. So before then, right?
Hmm.
I I mean, I was doing well. I had my job. I was, successful in whatever terms, relatively. But then there was always something of like, I knew that I could be more. I knew that I was meant for more, but I couldn't quite figure out what that more meant, right? And I initially thought it was a change of job because I had been in my previous job for about, say, 10 years. So I thought, okay, maybe I needed something new. So I resigned and I moved to a new job. But shortly down again, I started feeling that restlessness and I couldn't quite place it. But then I now started to pay more attention. In fact, this is where self-awareness comes in. We really need to make our time for self-awareness, understanding who you are, reflections, right? It's so important. Like, life is so busy, there is so much distraction, but we really need to, take time out and really understand ourselves. So when I started searching for knowledge, and of course, there was also the track of, remember I mentioned the parenting track too, where I
Yeah.
started consciously becoming a better, as I was trying to become a better parent, I realized that, see, becoming a better parent, it was actually mirroring me becoming a better person. So whilst I was, doing all of those things to become a better person, I started taking things like self-awareness, things like reflection more importantly. And that's when that restlessness, I started to understand what that restlessness meant. And it dawned on me that you need to put yourself out there, right? You need to do something like you have. I've always known I have a gift for writing. I've always known that. I took I'm the one who took after my father the most, so I've always known that. But I just couldn't, I couldn't just fit in that picture at the time. Now, whilst I was understanding who I was, I started realize that, look, you need to put yourself out there. And then, I hadn't started writing at the time. This was around November 2023. I started doing a bit of Instagram here and there. I wrote some articles on Medium here and there. But then when my dad passed and I went home and I saw all of those things, some of those books I knew, but sitting down and now going through I spent like a whole day reading, and I just started saying things. I just don't know me that, look, you know what? If my dad had the opportunity to have gone out there, like, he would have been he was a blessing to a lot of people, but it would have been nothing compared to if his books were, out there. And it was at that moment I said, you know what, you see this you're writing, you're going to stop hiding. You're going to start, you're really going to start doing this, right? And I made up my mind that I was going to launch my Substack in June. And in June, I launched that Substack. Now, when I even started, I just knew that I was going to write. In fact, the other day I was looking at my, the strategy I had come up with at the time, the newsletter structure, and I was just smiling at myself. Why? Because in just space of 6 months, a lot of things have evolved, right? Even when I say, oh, this is who I write for, it is now clearer. There is now more intentionality behind it. I now even understand, okay, this is why I'm writing, right? When I started, I just knew that I was going to write, but I didn't have that. I didn't understand. And that's why, when people say just start, it's not cliche. It's like really just start, because as you go out, there will never be a perfect time. And you would always refine, you would always adapt, you always evolve as you go along. And of course, that ties back to having that learning and beginner's mindset, because you don't want to stay stuck in, in your old ways, or, or stuck in your ways, or what you think is the best, right? So when I started, I started learning from people who have been there, and people who have been there, and who had done some of these things that I'm trying to do. Started understanding, oh, okay, oh, writing, yes, but then it's not like we went to any school for writing. I started to understand what it meant by you have to have a good headline. You have so there's also other nuances so that I needed to understand in the space. And I mean, it's been great. I mean, people reach out to you to say, "Oh, I read your article." I mean, I'm like, "Oh," and I was blessed. So it was so inspiring. I'm like, "Oh, really?" Like, you're like, "Okay."
Right.
So you're actually doing,
Yeah.
and honestly, there is no greater feeling. Like, since I started this, that restlessness has disappeared. I know for a fact, I know for a certainty that this is what I'm called to do. There is no there's no greater joy that I would feel, or that I would have, than seeing my work out there, helping, even if it's just one person, right, become a better.
Yes, I always talk about that, the power of one, because sometimes that stops us in our tracks when we want to try something and put ourselves out there, like you said, because we're worried about how many people are going to watch it or listen or read, or how many followers or subscribers, right? Now, those things are important because you do want somebody to watch or read or listen, but the power of one, you never know whose life that you can impact by you being obedient to what you feel like you should be doing in the
Right.
world and just leaving your mark. It's important. So I like that you took that leap of faith and you got out there, and you let your father's legacy motivate you as well. That's very inspiring. I told you before we started, I lost my dad in October of 2024. So, like, for me, that's kind of my driving force now to keep going, is because at his service, people kept saying how encouraging he was. And so when I heard that, I was like, well, that's where it came from. It's in me. you
Yeah.
know, I got the encouragement and I got the love of music from him, and listening to the music that encourages me. And I like to sing sometimes, and I used to play the
Um,
violin. So I got all of that from him. And we have to really honor those gifts that our parents gave us and
exactly.
keep going with it, like you said. And so that's a perfect segue into what I want to talk about next is, what made you so passionate about parenting. And I see you put different books out about parenting, and you talk about different things like that all the time on your Substack as well. So just share a little bit about that.
Okay. So when I became a parent, right, I definitely knew that, I mean, oh, I want my children to, I mean, as a parent, everybody wants to, well, let me speak for myself, but I know this is the kind of child I want. Growing up, this is how I was brought up. So definitely I was going to do the same. But I didn't have the right knowledge. I mean, now looking back, I realized I didn't have the right knowledge, most especially because the way we were parented, it's not, you're not going to use the same tools and resources, and the things and the knowledge, to parent now, right? So I realized that I probably wasn't doing things the right way. In fact, let me tell you a short story. So when my daughter was 4, my first daughter was 4, I realized that she picked up lying, you
Mm.
know, like, little things like, oh, who made this mess here? Mom, is not me. But all signs show that she shows she's the one. I'm like, okay, so at some point it became really bad. I'm like, where did you get this from? Like, we don't do this here. We're not like this. Where did you get? I became so agitated. Like, at 4, I don't, what's going on? Even at my age, I'll be shivering to tell a lie. How much more? Where did you pick you up from? So I started reading, and I got into a parenting group, and I realized that it was actually my perfectionism that was driving her to lie. How do I
Whoa.
mean? How do I mean? She's also somebody who, oh no, I want to do everything the way it's supposed to be. So when you do make a mistake, rather than owning up, you are too, would I say, ashamed or scared? I don't know the right word now to use, to be thrown on the spotlight in the negative way. So rather than that, you cover up. And then I wasn't helping matters because I'm like, I was acting as the perfect parent. No, we don't do that here. You don't tell lies. It's like, oh, lying is no, So I started to retrace my steps, and when I realized what I was doing, I had to let her know that, look, we are human beings, we make mistakes. It's okay to make a mistake. What you just need to do is learn from it. You won't believe that when I changed the communication from, oh, we don't do that here, you don't tell lies here, to, oh no, I mean, yeah, you did that. Okay, why did you do that? We made a mistake. Okay, you know what? Next time you do it this way, you don't have to lie, because I'm not perfect. It's only God that is perfect. Your teachers are not perfect, your parents are not perfect. When I started to change that communication, I realized that, this was 4 years, she's 8 now. The line episode stopped completely. I'm like,
Mm.
oh my God. Oh my God. And I remember growing up too. That's what my mother would have done. Oh, and then I realized that some of those things that I didn't like,
Mhm.
that my mom was projecting on me then growing up, because we're not so close until maybe when I got married. And it's all of this kind of harsh parenting that you think, oh, I'm doing this because I want them to be responsible children. But the connection was, there were cracks in the connections, right? And that made the relationship a bit. I mean, we're cool and all that, but I couldn't come to her to say certain things, right? As a child growing up, you go through different phases, right? I couldn't have some kind of heart-to-heart conversations we have, right?
Right.
These are things that they don't mend. They don't just mend like that, right? There are things that, I mean, if it's not there, it's not there. So I didn't like that growing up, but I realized that the same thing I was complaining about, I found myself projecting it on my daughters unconsciously. And that's when I said, you know what? I need to seek help and knowledge to do this better. I was going to do this right because I knew some of the issues. So if I continue this way, no, then what I want my children, I wasn't going to get it. And then that's when I started seeking knowledge. And then I realized that, and the more I sought knowledge, the more I realized that it was really about me. So I was the one who needed to change my communication. For instance, in the example I gave, I was the one who needed to show empathy. I was one who needed to understand that a misbehaving child is a child who needs love the most, and not the person who should be overly spanked and shouted at, and disgraced and all of that. I needed to understand that connection first before correction.
Ooh, I like that. Connection first before correction. That's beautiful. So would you say, I kind of had a certain order here, but this is really like I don't know what you call it, how it's supposed to be now. The biggest, would you say that was like the biggest mistake, in terms of like your parenting journey, just not knowing that?
Yes, the biggest mistake, it was that connection, right? I didn't have the kind of connection that I would have wanted with my mom. In fact, it was when I got married, and of course, when with marriage, then comes the whole baby thing, the whole that's when it kind of started to. But
Yes.
it's never the same, because all of those things
Right. They
are things
parent
that we have.
different as a grandparent than they parented you. They more got a soft spot in the middle for their child, right? So it's a
Exactly.
whole different thing. You're like,
It's a
whoa, I
whole
didn't get
different.
that.
I didn't get that. I didn't get that. And that the what I took out for, I mean, becoming a parent, what it has really taught me is the fact that you have to be the one to do the work first. Whatever it is that you're looking for in your child, you need to be it first. You need to model
Ooh,
it first. You need to show that you are this person. You want your child to be responsible, you need to be responsible. You want your child to be disciplined, you need to be disciplined. You tell your child, oh, don't be on the TV 10 hours a day. How many hours a day are you on the TV? How many books
okay.
have you read?
I like that. So that's the biggest lesson. You got a model basically. And
That
it's interesting because when we think about friendships, that's something that people have been talking about lately too. Just all relationships. Like whatever you want, you have to be that to other
you have to
people.
do that exactly. In fact, I had there was a session I had with someone, well, like a webinar, and we're talking about friendships and all of that, valuable friendships and all of that.
Mm.
Some people were like, so how do I even find this valuable friendships? And the person said, be that person. You see that person, that friend you're looking for, be that to someone first.
Right. And I
Easy to
heard it
say, oh,
said
I
that.
haven't had this, I have not seen this person, I've not seen that. What about you? What are you to people? How many people can say that you're valuable to them? Be the valuable person first, and then whatever you are will be attracted to you.
Right. I heard that recently I was watching something and they said even in terms of like a romantic relationship, they were like, listen, you want to be if you want something, right? Make a list of the things that you want and then be all of those things. So they all just kind of works together. And I never really thought about that in the context of parenting, but think about it. Children are sponges. They're very observant. So whatever you do as the first person that's the example of a relationship in your life, you have to understand that they're going to soak all of that up.
You will soak it
So
up. You will soak it up. I mean, it's so, since I started this journey, I've realized how powerful who we are and what we model to our children is. It is so powerful. It is so, so powerful.
yes. So just to the last question I want to ask you is well, the next to the last question, what message do you hope to promote about parenting? Like what's that overarching thing that you want people to know about parenting? Like really let's just combine both of them. Your seed, what's your seed for the listeners? Like for this whole conversation, whether it be personal development, whether it be parenting, what do you want people to take away from this conversation?
Okay, so for the parenting side, there's something I usually say. I say parents or caregivers, we are the first and most effective teachers in a child's life.
Oh, I love it.
We
I
are the
love it.
first and most effective teachers in a child's life. It is a privilege and a responsibility that we must embrace wholeheartedly.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful.
Yes.
That is beautiful. Like really, everything like it boils down to lessons. At the end of the day, whether it's parenting, whether it's personal development, and if you think about it, personal development is like you're reparenting yourself in a way. Things that you might not have learned, you're now teaching yourself.
Exactly. 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 And then for other individuals who are not parents, I mean, not everybody's a parent. I understand that, right?
Yes.
You have to. There is no purpose going through this life without being able to unlock. I mean, we all have something invaluable in us. God has deposited something unique to every one of us. We can't just pass through this life and just, allow that, oh, just go like that. No. There is something we have, that we all have a gift, and we have to use that gift purposefully, for our community, for ourselves, and for legacy. It is so important.
Yes, I
So
love
important.
that. That's so true. Because somebody, I was talking to somebody a few weeks back, and they were talking about how we are image bearers, right? And we all have a unique journey, and we're supposed to be displaying what God put in us. And they just said it so profoundly, right? And I was like I was like, I can never get it just how they said it, but the way she said it just really stuck with me. We're all God's image bearers, and we have something to give to the world. So
Exactly.
thank you for reminding me of that and reminding the audience of that. And yeah, so do you have any projects that you are currently working on?
Oh yes. So I'm working on, a number of things on my Substack now, my newsletter. Trying to structure it better. I launched last year. I hadn't turned on paid subscription, and that was because I was trying to all of this, my dad passing and all of that. Plus, I wanted to ensure that for people who are going to subscribe, like I had something well packaged, for them. So so what I'm doing now is I'm working on a number of resources. Coaching programs will come in at some point. I have a book that I've already started working on. It's a book for parents that understand that, because I'm someone who believes that, I've talked about it today, about the fact that learning is so much beyond the classroom. So it's a book around, that conversation. And it is beyond the information that, there's so much information around us today. This is a book I'm writing from my own experience, how I have used learning as a tool for effective parenting outside the classroom. So that's on the Substack, right? On the articles, the book. So I'm working on also building a community around what I do. So for people who, as an advocate for lifelong learning and someone who believes in the power of intentional living, right? I'm writing for, and my creator project is for those who feel the weight of life demands, yet they understand and they hold on to the desire to thrive, right? My community is also going to be for parents who nurture thriving children but understands that it starts from within, right? And also for the learners and leaders who know that personal growth is essential, not just for their success but for their fulfillment. So for all of these people and all of these people in this category, there is definitely something for them, that I'll be launching via my Substack. And of course, Substack is like my anchor point, an anchor for all of the other things. So the book, the coaching program, and the exclusive resources, all of that will be through my Substack here.
Okay, so remind us, how can we connect with you?
Okay, so my Substack, my newsletter, and then of course on YouTube, you can connect with me on Stella CZK. Also my Substack, Stella CZK. So those are the two primary platforms that are going to be. Yeah, you can connect with me and you can get access to all of the things that I currently do. I have a book currently on Amazon, Family Time Unplugged, Play, Connect, Explore. It's a collection of a number of activities that parents can carry out with their children. I wrote that book because um, I realized that, especially during the holidays or during weekends, or when weekends, holidays, or when children come back from school, there is no beyond, you find structure only in the school system, right? But when they come back, it's like, oh, the children are just left to maybe just watch TV, or they just go play. But like, that structure should continue. So in my home, we have structures. We have times, for different activities. My children are involved in a lot of activities, right? Of course, there's rest also included there, but all of this is to help them continue that track of learning. And of course, not just learning numeracy, literacy, and all of that, but play-based learning, right? So, they have they have languages outside the language they learn in school. They play the keyboard, they play the violin, they do gymnastics, they do ballet.
Okay.
Uh,
Wow.
they do, sometimes we have music concerts, right? So all of these are structured. I realized that during the long holidays, like, parents don't even know what to do with their children. And there is so much to do, so much to do, right? And this is the easiest way to build connection. If you know how to spend time it doesn't have to be a lot of time. So this is not about, oh, I don't work full time, or I work full time. Even if it's 30 minutes a day and you know how to use it wisely, you're going to build the kind of connection that will help you develop a lasting relationship with your children. So that book is currently on Amazon. It's Family Time Unplugged, Play, Connect, Explore. How parents can spend quality time with their children, irrespective of the age. There is something for everyone in the book.
Okay, that's beautiful. So once again, y'all could connect with Stella at Stella C Ezike on YouTube or Substack. All the information is on the screen if you're watching, and don't worry if you're listening. All the tea will be in the description of this episode on YouTube and Spotify. So be sure to check all of that out. And thank you so much, Stella, for joining me today. And thank everybody for listening and watching this episode. And if you are watching, make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, or share over on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure you follow, participate in today's poll, and comment. Let us know what you thought about today's episode. And as always, make sure y'all follow me at B Channel 27 on all social platforms for more content just like this. And peace and blessings, y'all. Until next time.
Thank you.
Yeah.